The iPad is one of the most controversial devices on the market right now, and a lot of people say that it's not worth it, but in this video I'm gonna explain why you should definitely grab yourself an iPad for a few reasons. The main reason that makes the iPad extremely worth it is because the iPad is the most versatile tool I've ever seen. It can be your desktop computer, it can be your day-to-day laptop, it can be your entertainment tablet, it can be your gaming station, it can be your drawing tablet, it can be your external monitor for your laptop, it can be your notebook, and it can be your camera, it can even be your phone. It can be so many different things, and there is no way you can find that in any other device on the market right now. And this is why I enjoy using it so much, because you can use it in so many different and creative ways, which leads to the second reason that I like the iPad a lot, which is fun, because using the iPad on a daily basis is just so much fun. It can make your life much easier and much more fun and exciting, which will ultimately lead to more productivity, and that's something you can't really achieve with other devices like a Mac or a Windows laptop. From a technical point of view, this thing is a beast. It's not only the iPad Pro, but actually all iPads have excellent and powerful processors, nearly as powerful as some desktops, beautiful screens and good battery life, support for the Apple Pencil and a keyboard of some sort, and of course your experience is gonna be better the more expensive you go along the iPad lineup. But my point is that no matter what iPad you get, there aren't any real major negatives. I personally would always go for the Pro, mainly for the high refresh rate screen and the support for the Magic Keyboard, which I actually really enjoy. It doesn't make the iPad a whole lot heavier, but it adds a whole bunch of possibilities and capabilities to the iPad, and personally I'm much more efficient with the keyboard, and when I don't need it I can just take off the keyboard and enjoy the iPad on its own. I also got the 12.9 inch size because I'm gonna be writing a lot of notes on it, so having a bigger screen is much more comfortable and easy to use with the Apple Pencil, which I think is a very nice stylus. I'm not that into digital drawing, but in terms of taking notes and regular work like graphics design, photo editing and video editing, the Apple Pencil is just great. However, the only negative for all of the iPads that make things a bit confusing is the price, but I'm gonna argue that the iPad is still worth it. You see, there are three main categories of iPad buyers. The first one is the people who want the iPad as the basic media consumption machine, so for like watching some videos and movies and maybe playing some games on it, nothing fancy or complicated, and these people are usually getting the baseline iPad or the iPad Air, and for those sort of people the iPad is 100% worth it, especially if you are in the ecosystem, and I'll talk about the ecosystem thing in a bit. The second type of iPad buyers is the people who have everything. I mean, like they have an iPhone and a MacBook and AirPods and Apple Watch, or at least they are invested in the Apple ecosystem, and for those sort of people I would also highly recommend the iPad. It sort of balances everything and makes your experience better. It makes you use your phone less, which I think is a good thing because phones are the most distracting devices ever, so relying on your iPad instead of your phone is always an advantage. In addition, the iPad really helps the Mac, and if you have both, it's such a wonderful experience because of the ecosystem. You can use the iPad as a secondary screen, or you can use universal control and enjoy macOS and iPadOS at the same time, as well as all of the ecosystem benefits like how AirPods switch automatically between devices, or universal clipboard, or how you can easily transfer files with AirDrop. It just adds a whole bunch of capabilities having both devices. And the last type of iPad buyers are people who want to depend on the iPad for everything. I mean, like they have a job, or they are studying in college or university, or perhaps they are learning something and they want to depend on the iPad for everything. And in this case it's just a bit more complicated, and I will take myself as an example because I was one of those people who wanted to rely on the iPad for everything, and I'm studying a science degree and doing some YouTube videos on the side, so I had to think if the iPad will be enough on its own for my kind of workflow, and I suggest that you do the same and do some research and make sure that everything you want to do is available on the iPad. For example, for my science degree, there aren't any specific apps that we have to use that are only available on the Mac or Windows, so my iPad is just fine for uni work, or actually I would argue it's way better than a MacBook or a Windows laptop, because science is heavily based on visuals and it's way easier to have an iPad that is able to annotate PowerPoint slides or take notes very easily in a very natural way, while it's much harder to take notes in a science degree with just a keyboard. Perhaps it's different for other degrees, but at least for science or a medical degree, it's way easier to have a pen and paper, which is the iPad in this case. Whereas if you are doing like a computer science degree, which involves coding, then the Mac or Windows laptop is your choice. I mean, in general, if you are doing a high level of media production, like very professional video editing or sound design or some complicated and professional graphics design, the Mac and Windows is always the best option. But let's not forget that this is a very tiny percentage of the world population. And if we come back to my situation, when it comes to the videos, I do my editing on my iPad using LumaFusion. It's nothing fancy and it does the job. And the designs I make, like thumbnails, aren't complicated, so the iPad does the job just fine. I don't really need a Mac, at least for now, and that's why I would recommend an iPad for a lot of students, because most students don't do anything professional or complicated, but they have some basic tasks that they want to do, and the iPad is the perfect choice because you can take notes with the Apple Pencil, or you could type an assignment using the keyboard, or you could use the same device for media consumption. It is just the most versatile tool for students. But there's still a chance that the iPad is not for you if you have a very specific degree or if you are a professional. And if you think you are one of these people, I've made a video on why you shouldn't get the iPad, which is in the description below. But other than that, I would highly recommend the iPad for a lot of people. I personally had my iPad for at least 2 years, and I've not had any major negatives that made me not recommend this device, except the price, because for a similar price you can get a MacBook, since they are very close in price. But let's be honest here, if you are in the ecosystem, or at least you had an Apple device before, it's highly likely that money isn't the biggest issue. And if you want a budget device, you can always get away with a Windows laptop. But yeah, I hope this video was useful, and let me know what you think in the description below, and thank you for watching.